better. Like I said, it's not going to have the elasticity that that you'll get from, you know, like a pizza crust or even a professional grade pie crust. You know, so I wouldn't recommend twisting it in the air like you see, you know, the professionals do, unless of course you know how to doctor it up a little bit on your own, then that'll be fine. You just want to make sure you get everything blended so that as you're rolling it, you don't hit any dry spots or cracks. And you have to doctor it, add water, start over. No, not start over from scratch, but you know, start over with the kneading and the working with it. Alrighty, there we go. That's about ready. Now, if this was a 2 or more part recipe, what you would do is at this point we would actually take your dough cutter and, you know, just cut it in half. That way you don't have to worry about an unbalanced pie crust. But in this case, we're going to do it as one. And from here, it's just as simple as rolling out any crust if you've ever done it before. You just add your flour down so it doesn't stick to your cutting board. You have to do a whole lot. You know, add some to the top of the pie crust, of course. You know, you want to try to start that off as level as possible. And you add a little bit to your rolling pin. Just a little bit on top so it doesn't stick. Roll it out as evenly as possible. That way I don't have to worry about trying to push it from one side to the other or starting over because one side isn't wide enough. You know, anybody who's ever first done it knows what I'm talking about. You know, the first crust never comes out right unless you just gift it. It's nothing hard, but it's something we all have to work out.
From the bathroom.
Yeah. Ready. So got that all rolled out. Now this one's not cracking too bad, but if you notice cracks in it as you're rolling it, just try to push the dough in the opposite direction. You know, basically, I mean, you only need about a 10-inch radius for a 9-inch pie pan. So actually, in this case, that's actually very wide enough. And of course, you don't want to push it out too thin because you want to make sure you can enjoy the crust. You know, since it's making a delicious crust, you're hardly going to have anything to bite into. So what I normally do, it helps to reduce the weight as you move the crust around. It also helps to make sure that if it's cracked, it won't break your crust as you're turning it around. As I take and cut out about 1 inch or so away from the edge of the pan. Like I said, this is a 9-inch pie pan. And that way that'll give us room to tuck it in. Pinch the crust. Pinch the edge. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to continue to take it down more as you put it together. You just take the scraps. Now you can, what I like to do, if I'm not making anything else with it, or you know, if I'm only making one crust or so, take these, roll them out, make little cookies or something for the kids, sprinkle some sugar on top of them or something. They love them. And so you take this out, you know, being careful with it, make sure it doesn't crack on you. So. And the better you are at getting that in the pan, the less chances you take on cracking it. Like I said, everything counts in this, so as you're working with it, just figure out your little secrets, little shortcuts. Press this down flat up against the pan. Not too hard though, you don't want it to stick, but you want to make sure that it's already stretched out and pulled down as far as it's going to go before you pinch the crust. A lot of times, I'm still learning on this, is after I pinch it, the crust will shrink a little bit more and it'll cause it to come away from the edges. So at this point you can pinch it and then cut it, but I personally prefer to cut the edges and then pinch it. So you just cut it like so. Doesn't have to be perfect or anything. Alrighty, just combine that with the rest of your scraps. And finally we just pinch it. Now this crust right here is pretty soft, so be careful with it. It can get cut real easy if you pinch it down too hard. You know, some people like to take forks or some other utensil and press on the edges. I mean, whatever your preference is, of course. It's your pie crust. This is just how I do it. Alright, so there you go. So once you're finished, you have a nice pie crust. Now, if you're making these in advance, you know, a couple days, of course you're going to want to wrap it in plastic protection. But for me, I don't make these until the same day I'm going to cook them. So what I do is I just put a little bit of plastic wrap or wax paper. I'm sorry, put a little bit of wax paper on top. That way you can stack them in the freezer so that they get solid and you don't have to worry about them being ruined. And just to show you, I've actually made one earlier. As you can see, nice and hard. I can flip it, I can hit it. It's not going anywhere. Alright, so you just put that in the freezer until you're ready to use it. It usually takes about 2.5 minutes or so before it's cold enough where it's solid. So you want to make sure if you're doing them randomly or multiple before you stick them in the freezer, you give it a little bit of time to harden before you stack them. Otherwise it may squish it. Alrighty. So that was that. It takes about 15 minutes. What I like to do is I usually make anywhere from 4 to 10 pies when I do it. So I like to save this little bit that's extra right here, and just, you know, every time I make a crust, I've actually got some more right here from earlier. You know, you have to add a little bit of water, doctor it up a little bit. Still come out fine when you're done, and you know you get more pie crust. So usually for every 2 or 3 crusts you make, you'll get an extra one from the scraps. So just keep that in mind. Don't just throw it away, especially if you're going to be making a lot. It helps because, you know, it shaves 10 minutes off of preparation time. So there you have it. That's your nicely made pie crust. I guarantee you, once you taste this, you won't want to go back to the store-bought. Just keep in mind and remember, it is pure butter. You will have to cook it at a lower temperature. Sometimes you have to be creative to make sure the pie. I usually cook these with sweet potato pie, so the sweet potatoes is fine to cook at a lower temperature than normal. But I mean, if it's something that needs to cook, you know, at a different rate, then you know, you can experiment with a little bit. Like I said, it's going to have a nice sweet taste. People are going to love it, and it's going to be a signature thing for whatever pies you make in the future. So if you have any questions, just ask me, post it, and I'll answer them to my best knowledge. Thank you.